Vlog 1 by Annalise Rank. Chapter 1 New World Beginnings. Europeans reached sub-Saharan Africa around 1450 when the carvel was invented by the Portuguese, allowing sailors to sail back up the western coast of Africa and back to Europe. 3/4 of the crops cultivated today are originated in the Americas. Within 50 years of the Spanish arriving in Hispaniola, the population went from 1 million to 200, wiping the people out because of diseases brought by the Spanish. There was also a population decrease following Columbus's settlement in America, wiping out 90% of the Indians because of the diseases. Spain became known for their dominance in exploring and colonizing in the 1500s. The Spanish came to America to serve God and look for gold and glory. By the 1530s in Mexico and 1550s in Peru, the conquistadors were replaced by colorless colonial administrators. In the conquest of Mexico, the Aztecs attacked the Spanish because of the Spaniards' lust for riches on June 30th, 1520. Because of the Spanish rulings, the Indian population decreased significantly from 20 million to 2 million in less than a century. During the spread of Spanish in America, the Spanish built a fortress at St. Augustine, Florida, to protect the sea lanes to the Caribbean in 1565. In 1680, the Pope's Rebellion happened, when the natives burned down churches and killed priests. Chapter 2 The Planting of English America, 1500 to 1733. In 1558, Elizabeth I became Queen of England. From 1565 to 1590, the English crushed the Irish uprising. In 1577, Drake circumnavigates the globe. In 1585, Raleigh found Roanoke Colony. In 1588, England defeats Spanish Armada. In 1603, James I became King of England. In 1604, Spain and England signed a peace treaty. In 1607, Virginia colony was founded at Jamestown. In 1612, Rolfe perfects tobacco culture in Virginia. In 1614, the First Anglo-Powhatan War ends. In 1619, the first Africans arrived in Jamestown. Also, the Virginia House of Burgesses was established. In 1624, Virginia became a royal colony. In 1634, Maryland colony was founded. In the 1640s, there was a large-scale slave labor system that was established in English West Indies. In 1644, the Second Anglo-Powhatan War took place. In 1649, the Acts of Toleration in Maryland happened, as well as Charles I being beheaded and Cromwell ruling England. In 1660, Charles II restored to English throne. In 1661, the Barbados Slave Coast was adopted. In 1670, Carolina Colony was created. From 1711 to 1713, the Tuscarora War took place in North Carolina. In 1712, North Carolina formally separated from South Carolina. From 1715 to 1716, the Yamasee War took place in South Carolina. In 1733, the Georgia colony was founded. Chapter 3 Settling the Northern Colonies, 1619 to 1700. In 1517, Martin Luther began Protestant Reformation. In 1536, John Calvin of Geneva publishes Institutes of the Christian Religion. In 1620, pilgrims sailed on the Mayflower to Plymouth Bay. In 1624, the Dutch found New Netherland. In 1621, Charles I dismissed Parliament and persecuted Puritans. In 1630, Puritans found Massachusetts Bay Colony. From 1635 to 1636, Roger Williams was convicted of heresy and he found Rhode Island Colony. From 1635 to 1638, the Connecticut and New Haven colonies were founded. In 1637, the Pequot War took place. In 1638, Anne Hutchinson was banished from Massachusetts Bay Colony. In 1639, Connecticut's fundamental orders were drafted. From 1642 to 1648, the English Civil War took place. In 1643, New England Confederation formed. In 1655, New Netherland conquered New Sweden. In 1664, England seizes New Netherland from the Dutch, and the East and West Jersey colonies were founded. From 1675 to 1676, King Philip's War took place. In 1681, William Penn founded Pennsylvania colony. In 1686, royal authority created Dominion of New England. From 1688 to 1689, the Glorious Revolution overthrew Stuarts and Dominion of New England. Chapter 4, American Life in the 17th Century, 1607 to 1692. In 1619, the first Africans arrived in Virginia. In 1676, Bacon's Rebellion occurred in Virginia, an uprising in the Virginia colony led by Nathaniel Bacon. This rebellion was the result of discontent among backcountry farmers who took matters into their own hands when running against government corruption and oppression. In 1692, the Salem witch trials occurred in Massachusetts, when dozens of people were accused of practicing witchcraft, mainly women. The people of Salem, Massachusetts were hung, tortured, and one was even burnt to death. A dog! Chapter 5, Colonial Society on the Eve of Revolution, 1700 to 1775. The first Southern college to train anti-clergy was founded in 1693 by William and Mary. The first medical attempts were made to prevent dreaded disease epidemics in the Middle Ages, thought to be during the plague in Europe. Benjamin Franklin started printing his most famous publication in 1732. Hobbes Swan, a fiery intellectual preacher, set off a powerful religious revival in New England. Freedom of the press case was settled on August 5, 1735, when John Peter Zenger stepped up. Whitefield, an eloquent British preacher, spread evangelical religion through the colonies. Britain vetoed colonial effort to halt slave importation in 1760. Scots-Irish protesters staged armed marches in 1764. Chapter 6, The Duel for North America, 1608 to 1763. Samuel de Champlain is the father of New France, who established a crucial alliance with the Huron Indians. Robert de Salé is a French empire builder who explored the Mississippi Basin and named it after his monarch. The War of Austrian Succession was the conflict that started with the War of Junkers Ear and ended with the return of Louisbourg to France. The Proclamation of 1763 was the British document that aroused colonial anger but failed to stop frontier expansion. René Robert Cavalier was a great empire builder who explored Louisiana and claimed it for the French king in 1692. The Great Commoner took command of the British government and its war effort in 1756. The Second World War between France and Britain ended in British victory and acquisition of Acadia. Britain issued a proclamation to prohibit colonial expansion and thereby prevent another Indian War. Chapter 7, The Road to Revolution, 1763 to 1775. The Stamp Act is a legislation passed in 1765 but repealed the next year after colonial resistance made it impossible to enforce. The Boston Tea Party was an event organized by men disguised as Indians to sabotage British support of a British East India Company monopoly. The Intolerable Acts were harsh measures of retaliation for a tea party, including the Boston Port Act closing that city's harbor. The association was the organization created by the First Continental Congress to enforce a total boycott of all British goods in America. The Quartering Act was an act of legislation that required colonists to feed the shelter British troops. Chapter 8, America secedes from the Empire, 1775 to 1783. George Washington was chosen commander of the American Army primarily because of his military abilities and experience. Tom Paine's common sense was most important because it advocated not only American independence, but a republican form of government based on consent of the people. The Declaration of Independence justified American independence not on the basis of the historic rights of Englishmen, but on the basis of the universal, natural rights of all humankind. The Declaration of Independence made the colonists seditious rebels against the king and enabled them to seek foreign assistance for their cause. the Loyalists considered the Patriots to be the traitors to their country, Britain, and themselves to be the true patriots.
To turn tables.